Formal logic. Introduction. In the previous study session, we focused on arguments. In this study session, we will extend our study light to formal logic. Formal logic deals with the logical or formal structure of statements and arguments. It comprises of analysis of statements, that is, categorical propositions that make up categorical syllogism. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Discuss formal arguments in natural language. 2. Highlight categorical propositions. Formal arguments in natural language. What we have discussed so far in the last 2 study sessions of this course falls under the aspect of logic called informal logic. Informal logic is concerned mainly with our everyday activities of making and evaluating claims, as well as detecting errors in reasoning. Formal logic, which is our main focus in this study session, deals with the logical or formal structures of statements and arguments. Ekanola 2004. These statements or arguments may be either in natural language or in artificial language. Formal arguments in natural language are many and they go by various names. Amongst them are categorical syllogism and relational argument. The part of formal logic that deals with formal arguments in artificial language is called symbolic logic. This study session introduces us to analysis of statements that make up categorical syllogism. These statements are called categorical propositions. A syllogism is an argument that has 3 statements or propositions, 2 of which are premises, and the last, the conclusion. Categorical syllogism, it's about the oldest and most popular form of arguments in natural language. It was indeed one of the earliest approaches to evaluating formal arguments. It was originally developed by Aristotle, codified in greater detail by medieval logicians, and then interpreted mathematically by George Boole and John Venn in the 19th century. A categorical syllogism is a form of formal argument made up of 3 categorical propositions. What then are categorical propositions? Categorical propositions. Categorical propositions are propositions of certain kind. They are about classes. We say they are about classes because they either affirm or deny that one class is included in another, either partially or wholly. There are 4 of such propositions represented by the following examples. 1. All men are politicians. 2. No men are politicians. 3. Some men are politicians. 4. Some men are not politicians. The above propositions either affirm that one class is included in another, like 1 above, or deny that one class is included in another, like 2 above, or affirm that some members of a particular class are members of another class, like 3 above, or that some members of a particular class are not members of another class, like 4 above. These propositions have been given names for ease of reference. Proposition 1 above is an A proposition and can be reduced to skeletal form as all S is P. Proposition 2 is an E proposition and is of the form no S is P. Proposition 3 and 4 are called I and O propositions and are skeletally represented as some S is P and some S is not P, respectively. Every categorical proposition has a recognizable form made up of 4 parts, namely quantifier word, subject term, copula, and predicate term. Using these terms, we can analyze the 4 categorical propositions as follows. 1. Quantifier word, all, subject term, men, copula, are, predicate term, politicians. 2. Quantifier word, no, subject term, men, copula, are, predicate term, politicians. 3. Quantifier word, some, subject term, men, copula, are, predicate term, politicians. 4. Quantifier word, some, subject term, men, copula, are not, predicate term, politicians. The nature of categorical propositions. The following notions should be understood in order to be able to analyze categorical propositions. These are quantity, quality, and distribution. Quantity. Every categorical proposition has a quantity. The quantity of a categorical proposition is either universal or particular, depending on whether or not the proposition refers to all or some of the members of the class designated by the subject term. For example, the A and E propositions refer to the entire members of their subject class and are therefore universal in quantity. On the other hand, the I and O propositions are particular in quantity because both refer to part of the members of the class designated by their subject terms. What is the quantity of each of the propositions below? 1. All men are mortals. 2. Some men are mortals. The first proposition is universal in quantity, while the second is particular in quantity. Quality. The quality of a categorical proposition is either affirmative or negative, depending on whether or not the proposition affirms that one class is included in another, either partially or wholly. For example, the A proposition affirms that all men are included wholly in the political class. Also, the I proposition affirms that part of the class of men are included in the political class. Both propositions are therefore affirmative in quality. On the other hand, the E and O propositions both deny that all or parts of their subject class are included in their predicates. Therefore, they are negative in quality. Distribution. This is a technical term that is used to describe the way terms occur in categorical propositions. A categorical proposition is said to either distribute or not distribute its terms. Since every categorical proposition has a subject term and a predicate term, a proposition may either distribute or not distribute its subject term or predicate term. A categorical proposition distributes a term if it refers to all the members of the class designated by that term. Consider the following propositions. All Nigerians are Africans. It is clear here that the intention is to talk about every Nigerian. Therefore, we say that the subject term is distributed. However, the predicate does not refer to all or every African. It refers only to these Africans that are Nigerians. Thus, we say that the predicate term is not distributed. But the E proposition, no Nigerians are Africans, asserts of each and every Nigerian that he or she is not an African. The whole of the class of Nigerians is said to be excluded from the class of Africans. The subject term is therefore distributed since it refers to the whole of the class of Nigerians. In asserting that the whole class of Nigerians is excluded from the class of Africans, the proposition is also asserting that the whole class of Africans is excluded from the class of Nigerians. The E proposition, therefore, refers to all members of the class designated by its predicate term and is said to distribute its predicate term. In the I proposition, some Nigerians are Africans. The reference in the subject term is to some and not all, and as such, the subject term is not distributed. Also, the predicate term does not refer to all members of that class and is therefore not distributed. Lastly, in the O proposition, some Nigerians are not Africans. The subject term refers to some members of the class and is therefore not distributed. What the proposition is saying is that part of the class of subjects, Nigerians, is excluded from the class of predicate, Africans. When something is said to be excluded from a class, the whole of that class is referred to. Therefore, the O proposition distributes its predicate term. In summary, we may say that 1. The A proposition is a universal affirmative proposition that distributes its subject term but does not distribute its predicate term. 2. The E proposition is a universal negative proposition that distributes both its subject term and predicate term. 3. The I proposition is a particular affirmative proposition that does not distribute its subject term and predicate term. 4. The O proposition is a particular negative proposition that does not distribute its subject term but distributes its predicate term. Which of the following propositions has its predicate term distributed? A. Some people that are blonde are not intelligent. B. All people that are blonde are intelligent. C. Some people that are blonde are intelligent. The first proposition has its predicate term distributed. This is because the proposition is saying that there are some people who are blonde but do not fall in the universal class of the intelligent. The second proposition does not have its predicate term distributed. This is because the proposition is not referring to all who are intelligent, but just a section. The third proposition does not also have its predicate term distributed. This is because the proposition is not referring to all members of the class of intelligent. Study session summary. In this study session, we examine the nature of categorical propositions, which are about classes because they either affirm or deny that one class is included in another. Also, we examine the notions of quantity, quality, and distribution as they relate to categorical propositions. The quantity of a categorical proposition is either universal or particular, depending on whether or not the proposition refers to all or some of the members of the class described by the subject term. The quality of a categorical proposition is either affirmative or negative, depending on whether or not the proposition affirms that one class is included in another, either partially or wholly. A categorical proposition distributes a term if it refers to all the members of the class designated by that term. We have come to the end of